All right, so Winter Storm Fern just dumped a ton of that wet, heavy snow on us, and if you're a property manager, I bet I know the one question that's on your mind. Is my roof safe? Well, let's get you a solid answer because, getting this one wrong, it's just not an option.
I mean, we've all seen this site, right? Maybe it's your own maintenance crew up there. Maybe you've even been the one with the shovel in your hand. And it looks simple enough. Just another brutal winter chore, part of the job.
But here's the thing. This is so much more than just another task. In fact, it might be one of the single most dangerous and, frankly, misunderstood jobs in all of property management. The line between a safe roof and a total collapse is way, way thinner than most people realize. And it's all based on science, not just looking at it and guessing. Okay, so let's just cut right to the chase. If there's one thing you take away from this, it's this: the half-capacity rule. This is it. This is the key to making the right call every single time. Now, to really get this rule, you gotta understand one simple term: live load capacity. And no, this has nothing to do with the weight of the building itself. Think of it as the temporary weight it's designed to handle. We're talking snow, we're talking ice, even heavy pooling rain.
So here's the rule, plain and simple. You need to act when the snow on your roof hits half, just 50% of its live load capacity. You don't wait until you're pushing 90% or, God forbid, 100%. That 50% mark, that's your trigger. That is your safety zone.
And this chart really lays it out. Let's use a real-world number. Let's say your roof is rated for 48 pounds per square foot, which is pretty standard for a lot of commercial buildings around here. Your uh-oh number isn't 48 pounds. Nope, it's half of that. It's 24 pounds per square foot. That gap between 24 and 48, that's your safety buffer. And believe me, it is absolutely non-negotiable.
All right, so 24 pounds is our magic number. Easy enough to say, right? But what does 24 pounds of snow actually look like sitting up on your roof? And this, my friends, is where things get really tricky. Because a foot of snow is not just a foot of snow. Judging by depth alone can be a huge, huge mistake.
I mean, you know the difference just by feel, right? You've got that light, fluffy powder, not a huge immediate threat. And then you have this stuff, the wet, heavy, concrete-like snow we just got. That is the real roof killer. A good rule of thumb to remember is that every single inch of that wet stuff adds about 1 pound of weight per square foot.
So, let's circle back to our critical number from that example, 24 pounds per square foot. That's the target. That's the weight we are watching for.
Okay, so what does that actually translate to in the real world? Well, 24 pounds per square foot could be about 2 feet of that, typical moderately wet snow. But, and this is a big but, if you get that supersaturated, almost slushy stuff, you could hit your danger zone with just 1 single foot of snow. Think about that. Half the depth, but the exact same dangerous weight. This is precisely why just eyeballing the depth is such a massive gift.
And something else you really need to know is that your roof's load capacity isn't some generic number pulled out of a book. It's actually a very specific calculation engineers do just for your building. They start with, a regional ground snow load, but then they adjust it for everything specific to your roof, its shape, its slope, even how much heat it loses. The final number is totally unique to your asset.
Okay, so now that you've got the rule down, let's talk about what you should be looking for in your own buildings. There are some very clear red flags to watch out for, and certain types of buildings that are just naturally at a much higher risk. Listen, your building will literally talk to you when it's under too much stress. You need to listen for things like popping or creaking sounds. You need to look for any sagging in the roofline, new cracks showing up in the walls, or doors and windows that suddenly won't close right. These are not, hey, let's add this to the maintenance list kind of issues. These are alarm bells. They're signals your building is in distress, and you need to call a professional, like right now.
And some buildings are just, more vulnerable than others. Think about buildings with those huge wide-open spans. Warehouses, gyms, garages. They have fewer internal supports holding everything up. Or unheated buildings, right? They don't get that little bit of help from heat melting the snow from underneath. And it goes without saying, flat roofs or low-slope roofs are just begging for snow to pile up, especially if the wind creates deep drifts or your drains are clogged.
So let's say you've done everything right. You've identified the risk, you know it's time to act. The next decision you make is the most critical one of all. Who is going up on that roof to do the removal? Because this is the moment a structural risk can turn into a human tragedy in the blink of an eye.
Just read this quote from OSHA. It's chilling, and it says everything you need to know. The most important words in there: could have been prevented. Sending your maintenance guy, who's a great person but isn't trained for this, up onto a snow-covered roof, it's not just a risk. It's a massive liability nightmare just waiting to unfold.
You know, everyone thinks about falling off the edge, and that's a huge danger for sure. But the snow hides so many other traps. That skylight you know is there, it's completely invisible now. The roof membrane itself, a TPO or PVC roof, it might as well be an ice rink. Then you've got hidden power lines under the snow, not to mention the sheer physical strain of the work itself. It's a perfect storm of hazards up there.
So, what's the smart move? What's the professional solution? It's really, really simple. You hire specialists to do a specialized, high-stakes job. I mean, let's just lay it out side by side. You send your own team up, you're looking at a high risk of someone getting seriously hurt, a really good chance of them damaging your expensive roof membrane with the wrong tools, and a massive liability risk for your company. On the other hand, a professional crew, they bring proper training, the right equipment, and the big one, full insurance. From a pure risk management standpoint, it's not even a debate. All right, let's wrap this up with the key takeaways, the stuff you absolutely have to remember. Number 1, know your number. Find out your roof's live load capacity. Number 2, act at 50%. That's your trigger, not 100. Number 3, watch and listen for those structural warning signs. And number 4, probably the most important, protect your people and protect your asset by hiring an insured, experienced professional every single time.
Look, at the end of the day, this is just a simple business calculation, a cost-benefit analysis. The cost of hiring a professional crew, that's a predictable, manageable line item in your budget. The potential cost of a workers' comp claim, a lawsuit, or a catastrophic roof failure, it's astronomical. The math here is just undeniable.
So I'll leave you with this one last critical question. You've got plans and protocols to protect your assets from fire, right? From theft, from water damage. Of course you do. But do you have a plan to protect them from the crushing and so often underestimated weight of winter?